Today we're going to talk about all the collaterals and the connecting points that the collateral use. They all correspond to the main meridian, but often it's called the 15 collateral. What's very interesting is in a lot of books, we're going to see 16 collaterals, but some books will say there are 15 collaterals. So what I love about Chinese medicine is that there's different school of thoughts for many part of TCM. And if you remember warm disease versus cold disease, like the Shan Han Lun versus the Wen Bin Shui, it's my Chinese pronunciation, don't quote me on that, but the 6 stage versus the 4 levels, right? Some school of thoughts think that all disease come from cold invasion, and some thought all disease comes from heat invasion. So 16 or 15, I'm going to talk about all 16. And then if you've been taught 15, a lot of school of thought will say there's 16 and not 15. Their function is to reinforce the internal and external related meridian.
Welcome to AcuPro, a show dedicated to making Chinese medicine and acupuncture easy to grasp and fun to learn. Hi, I'm your host, Clara Cohen. I support practitioners and students like you in changing the world one patient at a time. My goal is to share my passion for TCM and empower you to achieve superior patient care. I love to showcase the amazing benefits of acupuncture because after all, acupuncture rocks.
So first of all, they reinforce the yin-yang connection meridian, meaning the large intestine will reinforce the lung, and the lung will reinforce the large intestine. So that's their first function. The collaterals carry yin qi. So yin as in nutritive qi. They carry nutritive qi because they are trying to buffer the space between the external part, which is the muscular and dermatome layer, and the internal part with all the deeper meridian layers. That's their function, to really connect the external with the internal. They help expel pathogens from the internal, pushing it out to the external. And then emotionally, they help expel repressed, long-standing emotions that we haven't dealt with, that we carry and we're not able to expel. So a lot of time when you use some of the LUO collateral or LUO connecting point, you're going to trigger sometimes for people to cry or let those emotions out. So they are very good at expelling because they're balancing the internal versus the external. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So that's the function of the 15 or 16, depending which book you read, collateral. And the LUO connecting points is where the point that is connected from the main meridians to the opposite. Well, the long collateral is very short. It starts at long 7 and it finishes at the index. That's very short. So most LUO points are going to be either at the ankle area or the hand wrist area, but they connect and really reinforce the yin-yang externally, internally related meridian. The LUO point is where the collateral starts. Okay, so long 7 is a LUO connecting point. It's a LUO point. The long collateral starts at long 7. Okay, so it means that the LUO point is where the collateral starts. And actually, what's really funny about long 7 is that long 7 is a point that's actually located, when you think about it, on the large intestine meridian. How about that? So it is the LUO point. It connects the lung to the large intestine, and it is actually located on the large intestine meridian, not on the long meridian, right? Like long 9, long 8, but then 7 is out of the way. It's more closer or in line with large intestine 5. Interesting, right? So long 7 is the LUO point that connects to the large intestine, right? And large intestine 6 is the LUO point that connects to the lung. So pairing them, as you can see, they're both on the wrist. Now, when you needle those, you don't have to needle both bilaterally on both sides. You can do long 7 on one side, large intestine 6 on the opposite side. That way you don't have to overdo with too many needles. Works really well when you pair points that can really complement each other, okay? So large intestine 6 and long 7, why would we combine them, right? Both of them are great to expel pathogens. So if someone has an allergic reaction to whatever, the environment, food, and they start to have a lot of swelling, and sometimes the swelling can be obviously an emergency and we have to go to the hospital because we can't breathe, the throat is shutting down. That's a different story. Emergency is number one, right? But if someone is starting to have a bit of an allergic reaction and their face starts to swell, I had a patient one time, her ear was swelling, maybe your wrist, your hand, your finger starts to swell when you have an allergic reaction, but you're not hospital bound, right? That is not an emergency. Large intestine 6 will decrease the water or the swelling, the excess dampness that's accumulating, and long 7 will expel the pathogen. So between the two of them, they work really well for acute allergic reaction that creates swelling that affects the skin, because that's the relationship, right? It's on the skin, it's the external level. So that's easy, pretty simple for those. So let's look at the next two, which I absolutely love, which is spleen 4 and stomach 40. So those 2 points together, spleen 4 and stomach 40, are going to complement each other very well 2 ways. So spleen 4, LUO or connecting point, and stomach 40 first in balancing the digestive system, specifically when there is blood sugar imbalances. So for people that have tendency to have diabetes type 2, of course, it's super important to address the eating and change the eating habit and try to heal the gut. But in the meantime, it's really good. I use that combination a lot during pregnancy to keep the levels of the blood sugar really good, specifically for women that have had history of gestational diabetes in previous pregnancy. It works super well. The second purpose that we can use those two is to calm the mind. Remember, we talk about the collateral are great to expel pathogen, but also to release emotions, right? So stomach 40 and spleen 4. Stomach 40 is one of the best points for anxiety, and spleen 4 is related to the Chong vessel, which is the sea of blood vessel, right? Because it is a Chong confluent point. So it's really good when someone feels really overwhelmed and is getting anxious. So stomach 40 with spleen 4 together is great for people that have been anxious for a long time, for many years. They'll say, oh, I've had anxiety all my life. I get tools to manage it the best I can, but I have anxiety since I cannot remember, since being a child, right? So that's what we want to use them. If someone has had anxiety for a long time, those 2 pairs, very good in releasing the emotional aspect that is connected to the anxiety. Does that make sense? So it's pretty simple, right? But it's very powerful in clinical practice. I see that all the time. Let's look at the next pair. So this is an interesting pair. Heart 5 and small intestine 7. What I think is interesting is sometimes it's hard to connect the two, the heart and the small intestine. Their connection is a little bit tougher to understand, right? Because the heart is all about the mind and the emotions, while the small intestine is more about separating the clear from the turbid. It's in charge of fluid and separating the fluid and sending the turbid to the bladder and reutilizing the clear. So where's the connection there? Well, the connection is twofold. It's emotional with the physical, and it is separating the good from the bad, or the right from the wrong, right? Emotionally, when we can't see right from wrong because we're clouded, we're turbid mind, right? Separating the clear mind from the turbid mind, and we don't see the right from wrong. Those 2 points are great to balance that. So heart 5 and small intestine 7 are going to be useful, one, for physical and mental. Remember, that's the connection. Cystitis, right? Interstitial cystitis, which is an inflammation of the urethra, which often is misdiagnosed with bladder infection or UTIs. And eventually, after a few times, they realize, oh, it was not UTIs, it's cystitis, which sucks because then the person has taken a lot of antibiotics and depleted their immune system. So that kind of is not fun. But having said that, if it is cystitis, those 2 points together, small intestine 7 and heart 5, work really well for cystitis, because women that have had chronic cystitis, yes, diet is super important, but the number one is those people have had long-standing emotion issues, anxiety and insomnia. Most cystitis patients have had anxiety and insomnia, which relates to the heart, right? Heart 5 is used for stuttering and speech issue. This is for people that cannot voice what they want to say. They've stuck their emotions down and they're not voicing their emotions, right? And so that's a really good point to release those emotions that have been stuck for a while and address the small intestine 7 for the issue that is the excess heat that is showing in cystitis. Does that make sense? So those 2 points are great when there is physical aspect that is chronic inflammation, but that is coming from an emotional, long-standing emotional issue. By the way, if you have patients with cystitis, it's really important that they avoid food high in oxalate, okay? Food that are high in oxalate, like spinach, like potatoes, are going to make it worse. Even though spinach is good for you, it's probably not going to work very well for people that have cystitis. Okay, so now we'll get to kidney 4 being the LUO connecting point, and bladder 58. Kidney 4 and bladder 58. So of course the kidney and the bladder have a relationship where they reinforce each other, specifically when it comes to eliminate water and, the diuretic effect of water. Kidney 4 and bladder 58 are going to be very useful when there is kidney stone pain. It is not going to help in, getting rid of the kidney stones. You still have to pass those. But kidney 4 and bladder 58 together, when there's a lot of pain in the kidneys that radiates due to kidney stone, those are a great way to put them together for that perspective. That's the physical aspect. When it comes to the emotional aspect, which is really interesting, is looking at phobias. The kidney and bladder are related to fear in Chinese medicine, and kidney 4 is a really good point for phobia. So you may have a phobia of spider, but there's not many spiders around you. Okay, no big deal. But what about if you have agoraphobia? You don't like to be around people. Or you have phobia of small space and you can't take an elevator. Or you have germ phobia. When there are phobias, kidney 4 and bladder 58 are great to connect, because phobias usually are long-standing. They've been there for a long time. So to release that phobia, this is a really good combination. PC6 and Sanjiao 5. You've got to love Sanjiao 5 and PC6. Okay, so here's the connection between the two, which I absolutely love. The connection between the two is, first of all, they're right opposite. They're the only LUO connecting point that are actually, you could put a needle through and come out, right? PC6, whoop, come out to Sanjiao 5. Or Sanjiao 5 come out to PC6. I wouldn't do that, but what I'm saying is that they are exactly opposite. So they're very much yin and yang opposite. They have a relationship. One's in the back, one's in the front, okay? PC6 is a commander point of the chest. Sanjiao 5 is going to follow the Sanjiao meridian when it goes to the shoulder and to the back and up, and then it goes up to the head. What's interesting about Sanjiao 5 and PC6 is the middle of the chest, front, PC6, back, Sanjiao 5. This is a really good combination when people have a lot of tension and tightness, either or together. So in the chest and in the middle of the scapula at T5 area, right? Between the two scapula at T5, T6, T4, all that area of the chest in the back. This is the best combination when people that have a lot of anxiety, insomnia, and they're really tight and they're like, oh, I have this pain between my shoulder blade that's just driving me nuts. That is Sanjiao 5. That's going to release that with PC6 because it comes from anxiety. So when there's anxiety and insomnia with a lot of tension in the chest or between the shoulder blade at T5 area, this is the best combination. Again, it's physical and emotional, and you release both of those. Okay, let's look at liver 5. I love liver 5, not as a LUO connecting point per se, but I love liver 5 when there is bladder infection after intercourse that often occurs with a lot of patients, or external genitalia outbreaks. It works so well. You know what liver 5 is to me? It's dandelion. dandelion tea or dandelion root, which is herbs, right? Pugonyin in Chinese. Dandelion is really great for the same purpose. So I always like to look at herbs and acupuncture points and their similarity. So for me in my head, liver 5 is the connection to dandelion. That's their connection. So that's how I see it. Liver 5 and gallbladder 37. Liver 5 is more for external genitalia issue. And you know why? Because the collateral, liver 5, starts where the collateral of the liver starts, right? It starts at liver 5. Where does it go? It goes up and wraps around the external genitalia. That's why it's really good for any issue in that area. It's very interesting, right? So when you look at the collateral pathway, it will really tell you what's going on and how to utilize it. So when it comes to gallbladder 37 and liver 5, liver and gallbladder are really good to move chi because that's their connection. They try to relax us, put us in a state of relaxation so we can go, I feel good, not like, I'm so tense, right? We want to make sure that we are relaxed. So those 2 points are great when there is a lot of tension in the breast area specifically. So breast tenderness for women at PMS, or if there is a lot of fibrocystic breast, those two together work quite well. Specifically when people are stressed and the breast tenderness is increased at PMS when there's a lot of stress, or the fibrocystic breast, the cysts in the breast are getting increased with the amount of stress. This is a very good combination for that. So we have REN 15 and DO1, right? I have done DO1 on many patients and works really well specifically for hemorrhoids. REN 15, using REN 15 and DO1, which are opposite yin-yang meridian, right, are going to be really good prevention of epileptic attack. So DO1 and REN 15 are great for epilepsy patients to try to prevent attacks. So to really balance the whole spine, because remember, this is essence, right? REN and DO are connected to essence. So what we want to do is do those 2 points, try to balance the spine, the brain, the whole essence perspective when it comes to epileptic attacks. So it's a preventative measure which works quite well. So it's really cool to see because I don't have a lot of experience with it personally in my practice, but I know someone who does. The next 2 are all about the spleen and stomach. The major LUO connecting point of the spleen and the major LUO connecting point of the stomach. So they have regular LUO connecting point plus 2 major ones that are spleen and stomach, because spleen and stomach are the earth element and they are at the center of everything. They are actually at the center of our being. When you think about it, between our head and our toes, our digestive system is at the center of our health and it is at the center of our body. The gut-brain connection is not a myth. We are connected through our gut to our brain, our thinking, our thought. It's really important to eat a really good diet for the body to be full of energy, okay? So we said we have 15 or 16. All books are going to talk about the major LUO point of the spleen, but some books may also talk about the major LUO point of the stomach.
Have you gotten your copy of my AcuPoint Made Easy book yet? If you're a visual person, you're going to love it. I have put my passion for acupuncture into creating a fun, illustrated guide of all acupuncture points with their function, location, depth, and angle of insertion, including special points categories, extra points, cupping, moxa, and all my years of clinical pearls. You can download the digital version on any device, and it comes with many video links to complement it. Or if you'd prefer the hard copy version like me, you like to look at real books, the publisher ships it all over the world. Before you invest in it, I want to make sure that it is everything you were looking for in a fun guide for acupuncture points. So you can download the sample of all the hard points to see if the format of the book is what you truly were looking for. Listen to what people who invested in AcuPoint Made Easy have to say. I adore the book. It has answered so many questions on my mind and is logically and clearly laid out. It was a great investment. That made my day. Absolutely love this. Thank you for thinking outside the box. I have ADD and I'm easily distracted. You made it easy to retain this required information for acupuncture students in different ways for better understanding and memory. You rock. That also made my day because that's the whole point of creating a book and being on social media and helping support everyone, students and practitioners, because I feel like a lot of us felt lonely when we were on our own. So the internet has provided such a great resource for all of us. Check out the links in the show notes below or go to my website, acuproacademy.com, and click the shop tab on the menu bar to invest in your copy today.
So let's finish off with the two major LUO collateral points. So the first one is spleen 21. So spleen 21, remember when we talked about the layers? So I'm going to go back to the layers and then we'll go back to spleen 21. When we talked about the layers, we said that the collateral over here, right, we go from the deep to the surface, to the skin. And the next region is the 12 muscular regions. So the spleen 21 is actually, and you know where it's located, right? It's on the 6th or 7th intercostal space in the midline on the lateral side, depending which one is more tender. So spleen 21 is the connection of all the collateral, or the inside, because remember collateral connect the external and internal, to the next layer, the surface layer, which is the muscular region. And the reason I'm repeating this is because spleen 21 is the best point when there is chronic muscular pain like fibromyalgia. This is why when there is fibromyalgia, you can do trigger points and put points or acupressure or acupuncture points in all the area where the pain is, but you have to do spleen 21 because it acts like a spider web of all the muscular region. It wraps around all the muscular region and affects all the muscular region. So if there is really chronic muscle aches and pain, you have to do spleen 21. It wouldn't work if it was acute, but it's very good for chronic. So even people that have arthritis, it's in the joints, but it affects the muscle around the arthritis, you want to put spleen 21 as well. So that's a really, really good point to add to the protocol when it comes to fibromyalgia. I love spleen for that perspective. And then there is the 16th one. So the major LUO connecting point of the stomach, Ren 17 and stomach 18. This collateral, again, is very short. All collaterals are very short. So this collateral goes and starts at Ren 17 and finishes at stomach 18. It's a very short collateral. It's right on the chest area, right? This collateral starts at Ren 17 and stomach 18. So it's really connecting the heart and the lung. The heart and the lung, right? The gathering chi or the zong chi, Z-O-N-G. Zong chi is where our heart and lung chi is allowing us to breathe deeply and exhale, right? When we take a big deep breath and we exhale CO2, a lot of things happen. The heart is involved, right? With all the capillaries, the oxygen goes through the blood and the veins, and then we exhale CO2. It's all intricate together, and we don't even think. We take a big deep breath, we exhale, and it's like magic. But it involves two upper jaw organs that are fantastic in allowing us to breathe better, to feel relaxed in the chest. So when do we use the stomach major LUO collateral, which again is not just 1 point, it's 2 points on this one. It's very different. It's Ren 17 towards stomach 18. So what we want to do is we want to do both points, needle both, the first one and the last one, when there is a lot of shortness of breath with palpitation and chest pain, right? So for people that have lung and heart issue, it works really well to open the chest and allow both to connect. Does that make sense? So that's what we use those two for. So we went through all the LUO connecting points. I went pretty fast, but I wanted to really look at the way we use them in clinical practice because I love the LUO connecting point in the collateral.
Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I truly hope you benefited from this episode, and I would love for you to share it with a friend that may benefit from it as well. Follow the show, leave a review, and if you want more, go to my website, acuproacademy.com. I have tons of resources there with treatment protocols, case studies, free courses, and so much more. And connect with me on all social media at AcuPro Academy. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Pinterest, and LinkedIn and TikTok. And no matter what, keep rocking it using TCM. Please listen to the disclaimer because the AcuPro Show podcast and materials shared through AcuPro Academy, which is a subdivision of Natural Health Sense Incorporated, are designed solely for educational and entertainment purposes. The utilization of information from this podcast or any associated material is at the user's discretion and risk. This content is not meant to replace the guidance of an acupuncturist, Chinese medicine doctor, medical doctor, physician, or any qualified professional, nor is it a substitute for proper diagnosis or treatment. Users are strongly advised not to ignore or postpone seeking medical advice for any existing medical condition with their healthcare professional regarding any health concerns.